Item 12, Strategic Youth Justice Plan 2019-20. Councillor Bell.
I move the recommendations on page 44 of the Council Summons and reserve the right to speak.
Councillor Baines.
I second that, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for the opportunity to speak. Normally, this document will come to Council, it would be noted, approved, and then kind of drift away into the ether. But actually, I thought, given the work that the Youth Justice Service have undertaken this year, I did want to speak briefly on the report, just to highlight some of that good work that's come through. So, for those of you that don't know, the Crime and Disorder Act 1998 requires local authorities to have a youth justice plan, and that's what's in front of you. It's the plan for year 1920, and we do produce them annually. It sets out how our youth justice service is going to be funded and delivered locally within the parameters created by the available resources and the grant that they get. The service works with partners from Health, Police, National Probation Service, and what's really good news is that they have overseen significant reductions in the numbers of young people entering the criminal justice system using restorative justice and diversionary activities, which is really good news. That has reduced the criminalisation of young people in the borough. It has, in most cases, better serve the wider public, as those young people have actually tended not to re-offend afterwards. Consequently, the service as a whole is now working with a smaller cohort of young people, but that smaller cohort tends to be young people that need much more intensive support. And as a result, what we've seen is a restructure of the service and a different approach to the work in practice. The service has reshaped itself to offer work more intensively with this smaller cohort, with a view to specifically reducing the frequency and seriousness of the offending, and in doing so, reduce the use of custody, whilst at the same time seeking to reduce the risk to the wider community. And we're now reaping the benefits for that. We're seeing it come through. So the plan in front of you this evening for 1920 outlines that continuing shift in focus. And essentially it means that the service will need to ensure it strikes a balance and an appropriate balance between child welfare, which is vitally important, safeguarding concerns, and the sharper edge of reducing reoffending rates, and importantly the need for public protection too. So it's a fine balancing act, but all of these aspects need to come together. Over recent years, commonly really with most of the public sector services, grant funding for St Helens for the Youth Justice Service Board has reduced significantly. The Youth Justice Service, sorry. The current plans by the government include more police on the streets and prison places to tackle crime, but actually that punitive approach does not work, arguably, with adults and definitely with young people. You need to look much deeper than that. Yes, we absolutely need to be tough on crime, and I'm 100% behind that, and that's been something that I've been quite vocal about. However, if we don't use and fund appropriately rehabilitation and restorative justice work, we'll never stop the cycle of crime, and that doesn't help our communities as a whole. And it's that cycle of crime that is so vital to give young people a future. In fact, I'm sure that someone once said that we need to be tough on crime, but also tough on the causes of crime. I can't quite remember who said it. Given the service is now required to meet the costs of young people remanded into the secure estate, with a fixed level of grant, it potentially means that there's quite a volatile cost profile. And what that means is, if a young person goes into custody, we now have to pay for that, and the cost is really, really high. That's why it's just as important for us to focus on that restorative justice aspect. The new head of service has worked really hard with the team, and they've changed the direction of travel. And as a result, they're reducing first-time entrants into the service and having an overall impact on reoffending rates. So it is good news. It's envisioned that this will do much to strengthen the collaborative approach and reduce reoffending. And despite the decline in funding and the turbulence experienced by the team with a total restructure, that team have continued to work hard as dedicated, compassionate and committed professionals who want to work with some of our most vulnerable young people. So very quickly, before I finish, just to highlight a number of the key achievements that that team has made in the previous 12 months. They've developed a less is more model of assessment and contribution to national training. And the benefit of the work that they've been doing, going out to other youth justice services and training them on how to use that system, has received national recognition from Charlie Taylor, the chair of the Youth Justice Board, who actually wrote to the Chief Executive to commend the work that our service had done in training other people. Some audit work was completed by the Safeguarding Partnership, and it recognised the outstanding practice by the service team in relation to domestic abuse and young people who are suffering that. There's been really positive feedback from the young people themselves about their experience of the service and the development of a children's forum for young people accessing. There's some really interesting work happening around the development of our knife crime intervention programmes, working with local charities who are involved in that, and they've maintained and improved, actually, performance across 3 national indicators, reducing the number of first-time entrants into the criminal justice system, which is just brilliant news. And they recently received an Achievement for All award. It's Quality Lead Award for supporting young people with SEND needs. So, Madam Mayor, I want to submit the report for noting this evening, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak to the work that the team have been undertaking this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. All those in favour, please show. That's carried.